hold up, this story right here, it's bigger than any rat beef, bigger than any viral rant, bigger than any flashy gossip headline you've scrolled past this year. Forget the back and forth disses, the Instagram drama, the carefully staged moments on reality TV. What's happening right now in the Harris household cuts far deeper than music, deeper than fame, and deeper than any brand they've tried to build. At the center of it all is King Harris, the son of trap legend T.I., and the scandal shaking his entire family to its foundation. What should have been a routine medical procedure spiraled into a nightmare nobody saw coming. Reports suggest King was rushed into emergency brain surgery, not a minor checkup, not a precautionary visit, but a life-or-death operation that went so cataclysmically wrong, it left him fighting to survive. According to whispers that started almost immediately after the procedure, this wasn't just a case of unexpected complications. Something happened in that operating room that shifted the entire tone of King's life, and by extension, his family's empire. Instead of stabilizing and walking out with a recovery plan, King allegedly left that surgery unresponsive, hooked to machines that were doing the work his body could no longer handle on its own. Nurses began murmuring about a coma, sources inside the hospital described a wing that looked more like a lockdown zone than a recovery ward, and those whispers grew louder by the day. When you step back and look at the picture, it's chilling. A young man, known for being brash, outspoken, and larger than life on social media, suddenly silenced. A teenager who spent so much energy trying to carve his own lane in the shadow of his famous parents, now reduced to a hospital bed, with tubes, wires, and machines controlling whether or not he made it through the night. It's the kind of situation that makes even the boldest families pause. But instead of transparency, the Harris clan shows silence. Now, T.I. and Tiny aren't amateurs when it comes to media management. For years, they've built a brand out of carefully curated appearances, staged family moments, and a reality show image that always tried to blend the rawness of Atlanta with the polish of mainstream success. But when King disappeared from the public eye, people noticed. His live stream stopped. His antics, once daily headlines, suddenly went quiet. Instead of clarity, the family flooded timelines with old clips, recycled footage, and staged smiles. The idea was simple: keep the illusion alive. But fans aren't blind. They see patterns, they track timelines, and they know when something feels off. And here's the problem with trying to spin a crisis. Silence doesn't calm speculation, it fuels it. By avoiding the truth, the Harris family created a vacuum. And in today's digital world, a vacuum always gets filled with whispers, with conspiracy threads, with speculation that spreads faster than any official statement ever could. The more they tried to control the narrative, the less control they actually had. If the story ended there, it would already be explosive, but then came the twist that transformed this from a family tragedy into a full-blown scandal. The FBI stepped in. Federal agents don't casually stroll into hospitals. They don't shut down wings, seize paperwork, and escort doctors out in handcuffs because of bad luck. Their involvement signals something far more serious: negligence, misconduct, or even fraud at the level that demands federal oversight. Imagine the scene: suited agents walking past flashing cameras, seizing documents, questioning staff, and pulling files as administrators scramble to explain what went wrong. Sources say doctors were detained, nurses were pressured into silence, and the entire operation was treated like a crime scene. This wasn't a quiet inquiry, it was a raid. And the fact that the son of a hip-hop icon was at the center only amplified the chaos. The natural question becomes, why? Why would a medical mishap escalate all the way to a federal investigation? What could have happened in that operating room so severe, so reckless, that it brought federal agents through the doors of a hospital? The whispers suggest malpractice of the highest order, that shortcuts were taken, that warnings were ignored, and most damning of all, that the family's demand for secrecy may have directly contributed to the disaster. This is where the rumors get truly disturbing. Some insiders claim King's symptoms had been building for weeks, maybe months, and were dismissed until they spiraled out of control. By the time surgery was pushed through, doctors may not have been fully prepared to handle the worst-case scenarios. Others allege that the family's obsession with privacy, the desire to keep this hidden from the public eye at all costs, led to protocols being skipped, corners cut, decisions made not for the patient's safety, but for the brand's protection. If even part of that is true, it's not just negligence, it's criminal negligence, the kind that ends careers, sparks lawsuits, and puts people behind bars. No wonder the FBI showed up. Because if a teenager nearly lost his life not just because of medical risk, but because of secrecy, power, and pressure, that's no longer a family issue. That's a federal case. Meanwhile, outside the hospital walls, the internet was already buzzing. Fans flooded timelines with questions. Why hasn't King been seen? Why are T.I. and Tiny posting throwback photos instead of updates? Why are old clips suddenly being recycled as if he's fine? Hashtags like Justice for King began trending. Conspiracy threads exploded, some wild, some grounded, but all circling the same chilling idea. Something catastrophic happened, and the truth was being buried. In an era where transparency earns respect, silence feels like guilt. And the Harris family's silence has painted them into a corner. Every selfie, every staged post, every cryptic caption is dissected for hidden meaning. Tiny's glamorous uploads are criticized as tone-deaf. T.I.'s appearances with mysterious folders are turned into memes. And all the while, the core issue remains unresolved. Where's King? What condition is he really in? And why won't anyone say the truth out loud?
Then there's the family wildcard, Big Nana. The matriarch, the one voice that isn't filtered through PR teams, contracts, or carefully staged branding. Rumors suggest she's furious. Furious that her grandson is suffering while lawyers push NDAs across tables. Furious that the truth has been buried under recycled smiles and staged distractions. And here's why her voice matters. The public believes her. She represents raw truth, unfiltered emotion, and a willingness to say what everyone else is too scared to. If Big Nana decides to go live, if she presses record and speaks directly to the people, the Harris family's carefully guarded wall collapses instantly. Because in today's culture, one raw live stream outweighs months of spin, and fans are already begging her to do it. Her comments are flooded with pleas for the truth, and the pressure is mounting. The irony is almost painful. T.I. built his reputation on being real, on speaking truths in his music about the streets, about struggle, about authenticity. Yet when it comes to his own son, the truth is the one thing he refuses to give. Instead of clarity, we get silence. Instead of transparency, we get throwbacks. And in today's world, silence doesn't come across as strength. It comes across as guilt. This isn't just about a botched surgery anymore. It's about power being misused, about secrecy prioritized over safety, about a family that shows brand over blood. And the fallout is bigger than just a few headlines. Industry insiders are already whispering about canceled shows, frozen deals, and contracts quietly being shelved. Because no brand wants to be tied to a family under federal investigation. Think about it. The Harris family has weathered storms before. Cheating rumors, arrests, public fights, controversies that would sink other celebrities. And each time, they managed to bounce back. But this is different. This isn't about a mistaken judgment or a scandal of image. This is about life and death. This is about a teenager lying in a hospital bed because of what may have been reckless negligence. And that's a stain you can't wash out with a new album, a reality show, or an Instagram caption. The whispers will never stop. Even if tomorrow the family walked out with paperwork proving King is on the road to recovery, the doubt is already cemented. People would still ask, but what really happened in that room? Once suspicion takes root, it never leaves. And the Harris name, once tied to Atlanta royalty, now finds itself tied to hashtags, memes, and federal headlines. However, doctors have emphasized that the next 48 hours are crucial. The fragile state of King's condition means that even the slightest setback could result in catastrophic consequences, leaving his life hanging by the thinnest thread imaginable. This single statement has turned what might have been a local news story into a global point of tension, a ticking clock filled with fear, unanswered questions, and collective anxiety. But the situation takes an even darker turn when insiders suggest that this was far from a random act of prison violence. Multiple sources have indicated that King Harris may have been deliberately targeted. Rumors circulating within his inner circle suggest that he uncovered dangerous secrets involving powerful inmates, rival crews, and covert operations within the jail system. Leaked reports point fingers at Boosie's circle, accusing them of orchestrating this attack as retaliation for scandals and leaked materials that humiliated and severely damaged his public image. The narrative has rapidly evolved from an unfortunate incident to a chilling story of revenge, secrecy, and a possible calculated attempt on a young man's life. Outside the hospital, the scene is filled with anguish and desperation, a raw display of parental grief that has been broadcast across social media. T.I. and Tiny, King's parents, have been visibly distraught, their anguish capturing the pain of watching a child fight for his very survival. Reports from eyewitnesses describe T.I. teasing the hospital halls with red-rimmed eyes, fists clenched in frustration and despair, while Tiny refuses to leave King's side, sobbing uncontrollably, overwhelmed by the fear that they could lose their child. The pair have publicly pleaded with fans to join them in prayer, issuing statements such as, "We're asking the world to pray for King. We need a miracle." The sincerity of these words is unmistakable. They are not merely a public statement, they are a cry for help from parents watching their child slip further away from life by the hour. Social media has exploded in response, with millions of posts flooding platforms under the hashtag #PrayForKingHarris, turning the situation into a global movement of collective hope, emotion, and solidarity. But even as support surges, the storm of controversy intensifies. Some have gone so far as to accuse the family of negligence, suggesting that King was deliberately exposed to danger to protect others from scandal. The tension between grief and speculation has created a highly charged atmosphere, leaving the world questioning whether this was fate or a calculated attempt to silence him permanently. Inside the hospital, the atmosphere is suffocating. Cameras flash continuously, reporters shout for updates, and fans cry uncontrollably in the hallways, desperate for any information. Meanwhile, King Harris remains motionless in his hospital bed, connected to an array of tubes and machines, each beep and hum a reminder of the precariousness of his condition. Doctors have described his state as critical and unstable, emphasizing that this is not merely an injury, but a direct assault on his very existence. The narrative has shifted dramatically from just a few weeks ago, when King was known for his fiery personality, social media conflicts, and risky lifestyle choices. The same young man who walked into prison as a fighter is now a victim, dragged into a complex web of violence, secrets, and possible conspiracy, highlighting the harsh and unpredictable realities that surround him. Leaked medical reports reveal the severity of King's head injury. Fragments of bone had pierced dangerously close to his brain, leaving surgeons with no choice but to operate immediately. While the surgery was deemed technically successful, the aftermath has been nothing short of a nightmare. King never regained consciousness. The question now haunting family, friends, and fans alike is chillingly simple. Who would want to silence him so completely, so violently, that his life nearly ended behind the walls of a correctional facility? Rumors are rampant. Some insiders claim this was nothing more than a heated altercation that escalated into violence. However, other sources suggest it was deliberate, a calculated attempt to remove him as a threat. The timing, the severity of the injuries, and the circumstances surrounding the attack all point to a hidden hand pulling strings behind the scenes. King's knowledge of gang rivalries, corrupt dealings, and dangerous alliances made him a liability. In environments like this, being a liability can be a death sentence.
Then came the even darker revelation, Boosie's involvement. Multiple leaks suggest that King's public scandals, leaked tapes, and social media controversies humiliated Boosie, causing significant damage to his reputation. Speculation quickly spread that Boosie or his associates orchestrated the attack to silence King as revenge. While no official confirmation has been issued, the theory has gained traction among fans, insiders, and social media users alike. The lines between hope, outrage, and fear are blurred. On one hand, the public rallies behind King, hoping for his recovery. On the other, there is growing pressure to uncover accountability and justice, not just for the attack, but for the circumstances that allowed it to occur in the first place. Social media has become a battleground. Millions of users, from fans to celebrities, have flooded platforms with messages of hope, support, and prayers, amplifying the hashtag Pray for King Harris around the world. Yet with the support comes criticism. Many have questioned whether King's lifestyle, the family's decisions, and the surrounding controversies contributed to his current predicament. Some critics argue that the family may have indirectly allowed King to pursue dangerous paths due to the pressures of fame, public image, and media scrutiny. These allegations have divided public opinion. On one side, supporters stand firmly with the family, offering messages of love, encouragement, and hope. On the other, critics demand accountability, calling for explanations for how such a life-threatening situation could have unfolded. The clock ticks relentlessly. Doctors have emphasized that the next 48 hours are critical. If King does not show improvement, his body could begin to shut down. Each minute feels like a countdown to disaster. Imagine being 20 years old, with your entire future stolen in a single act of violence, while your parents plead with strangers across the globe to pray for a miracle, because science alone may not suffice. The weight of this moment is crushing, not only for the Harris family, but for the entire community that has rallied behind King, praying and hoping for a sign that life can prevail. Questions of conspiracy loom large. What if this was not a random attack, but part of a larger scheme designed to silence King permanently? Could this incident be a warning to anyone who dares to expose secrets from within prison walls? Theories circulate that King may have been deliberately targeted because of information he had uncovered, exposing hidden criminal networks and illicit dealings. The hospital, surrounded by supporters holding candles and praying, feels like a battlefield, not of weapons, but of hope, despair, and faith. Every beep of the machines is a haunting reminder of the fragile line between life and death. The global community waits with bated breath. Who orchestrated this attack? Why now? And if King does not survive, will the truth ever be revealed, or will it vanish with him? Beyond King Harris, this is a story about a broken system, a family under unimaginable stress, and a generation witnessing the high stakes of fame, secrecy, and betrayal. Every hour that passes deepens the suspense and raises the stakes for everyone involved. King Harris's story is more than a news headline or a viral social media post. It is the story of a young man whose life has been violently threatened, of parents watching helplessly, and of a community that refuses to let hope die. It is a story that forces reflection on fame, family, secrets, and the dangers hidden behind public personas. As the world watches and prays, one undeniable truth remains. King Harris's fight is far from over. Every thought, every prayer, every public display of support counts. However, insiders insist this was no random brawl. Sources call it a setup, a straight-up premeditated hit meant to silence King Harris forever. Even the prison's ever-rolling cameras supposedly blacked out the moment he was struck. No footage, no evidence, just silence. Heavy, accusing, suffocating silence that screams of conspiracy. A leaked recording of a nurse, her voice barely above a whisper, shattered the already fragile sense of security. This wasn't random. This was a setup. Someone wanted him gone.
Those words spread like wildfire across social media and private networks, fueling the theory that King was not just another victim of prison violence. He was a target, a pawn in a game bigger than any of us could see. The question everyone is asking is simple yet terrifying. Why? Why would anyone want King Harris erased from the picture? Some whisper that he stumbled onto dangerous secrets inside those walls: crooked guards, hidden contraband, corruption flowing like a river behind locked doors. Others insist that this was not about him at all. This was about his father, T.I. A warning shot fired at a man who has navigated fame, fortune, and influence, proving that no level of celebrity or wealth can shield you from forces far larger than the system itself. And then there's the darkest theory of all. This wasn't prison politics. This was personal. Someone, somewhere, arranged a hit from the outside, perfectly timed to catch King at his most vulnerable, leaving him exposed and defenseless, a boy in a man's world where brutality was waiting. The Harris family, once untouchable in the public eye, now looks like prey caught in a meticulously orchestrated takedown. Tiny, his mother, collapsed in hospital corridors, her screams echoing, "Why my baby? Why him?" Videos of her grief spread across social media, turning private sorrow into global heartbreak. Meanwhile, T.I. was no longer the mogul, no longer the polished figure known worldwide. He was a broken father, kneeling, screaming to the universe for mercy. "I don't care about justice. I just want my boy to live." That raw, unfiltered moment shattered millions of hearts, but also sparked suspicion. Whistleblowers claimed that guards had been instructed to look away. Those cameras, they didn't malfunction. They were deliberately shut off. If this is true, it means the very people sworn to uphold justice may have opened the door to murder, turning protectors into conspirators.
Inside the ICU, time moves differently. Each second drags, stretches, and warps into an eternity. Doctors whisper warnings that King may not survive the night. Each beep of the monitor a chilling reminder that life could vanish in an instant. The world waits. The questions remain unanswered. Why was he targeted? Was it prison corruption? A vendetta inside the music industry? Revenge aimed at his father? Theories multiply faster than answers, and yet one truth remains glaringly clear. This is no longer a story about a prison fight. It is a story of betrayal, power, and the deadly cost of fame in a world that rarely shows mercy. By morning, the city of Atlanta was already drowning in chaos. Crowds swelled from dozens to hundreds, forming candlelit vigils, prayer circles, and angry protests demanding answers. Fans cried openly into cameras, their voices cracking with grief and frustration. One viral clip captured a supporter shouting, "Y'all protect criminals, but you couldn't protect a child in your care." Those words resonated across the city and across the country, embodying the anger, despair, and frustration of countless people watching the Harris family's nightmare unfold. The system didn't just fail King Harris, it betrayed him. Inside the hospital, the nightmare deepened. Reports leaked that doctors had informed Tiny and T.I. that his brain activity was weakening. He wasn't brain dead, but the likelihood of paralysis, speech loss, or permanent damage was high. Tiny collapsed in tears, screaming, "They wanted to kill my baby. They wanted to destroy us." Her grief echoed through the sterile hospital halls, amplified by phones capturing every moment, spreading like wildfire across timelines. And then came another gut-wrenching scene. T.I. dragged from the ICU after an emotional breakdown, shouting, "If my son don't make it, the world going to burn." Those words hit the internet like an atomic bomb, sparking sympathy, outrage, and endless speculation. Was this a father lashing out in desperation, or was he hinting that he already knew the puppet masters orchestrating this chaos? Rumors exploded after an alleged inmate recording leaked online. In the shaky audio, a voice said, "We were told to make it look like a fight, but the target was King. They wanted him down no matter what."
The clip's authenticity remains unverified, but its viral spread fueled worldwide fury. If true, it confirmed what many feared. This wasn't chaos, it was a calculated hit disguised as a brawl. Some blamed rival gangs inside, while others whispered about enemies from T.I.'s past pulling strings from the outside. King Harris wasn't in the wrong place at the wrong time. He was the chosen target. And just when it seemed like things could not get any darker, another bombshell emerged. Reports claimed King flatlined overnight, only to be revived in a desperate last-minute effort by hospital staff. Cameras captured the aftermath, Tiny screaming uncontrollably, T.I. on his knees begging God to take everything he owned, but not his son. His words, "Lord, take everything I own, just don't take my boy," shattered the internet and turned a private hell into hip-hop's most public heartbreak. Overnight, #King lit up as the #1 global trend. But with prayers came darker conspiracies. Some whispered karma, others demanded revenge. A few claimed the Harris bloodline was cursed. A cryptic Instagram account fueled the flames, posting "The sins of the father fall on the son." This was never about King. It was about T.I. The account vanished within hours, but screenshots remain, sending shockwaves through timelines. Celebrities piled in, turning tragedy into spectacle. Rappers, producers, and commentators offered opinions, some blaming the prison system, others pointing out T.I.'s enemies. One producer wrote, "When you play with fire, sometimes the flames reach your family." That line sent fans dissecting decades-old beefs and alliances, tying King's attack to unresolved grudges and dangerous relationships that hip-hop had never buried. Suddenly, this wasn't just a boy in a hospital bed. It was a collision of history, secrets, and raw human emotions spanning decades. Meanwhile, the Harris family fought on every front. Hospital security tightened after threats emerged online. Protesters outside carried candles, banners, and signs screaming justice for King. In one raw moment, T.I. stormed out of the hospital, his voice shaking with fury, screaming, "If y'all don't protect my family, I'll burn this whole system down myself." This wasn't the polished performer fans knew. It was a father ready to challenge every force trying to destroy his bloodline. Doctors allegedly warned that if King didn't improve, life support might have to be considered. Tiny fainted in the corridor while T.I. erupted, roaring, "You don't get to decide when my son's story ends." Pain spilled into the streets. Supporters chanted, candles burned brighter, social feeds erupted. A leaked photo of T.I. gripping King's hand, whispering, "Daddy's right here, I'm not leaving," instantly became one of hip-hop's most heartbreaking images. So where does that leave us? Right now, King Harris reportedly remains in critical condition, the true details hidden behind a wall of silence. Federal agents are pulling files, arresting doctors, and digging deeper by the day. Fans are dissecting every move the family makes, every recycled post, every cryptic caption. Big Nana is threatening to break the silence. And the Harris empire, an empire built on music, influence, and brand, is teetering on the edge of collapse. The streets are buzzing, social media is in overdrive, and the world is watching popcorn in hand, waiting for the next revelation to explode. Because at this point, the truth isn't a question of if, it's a question of when. And when that truth finally surfaces, the only question left will be whether the Harris family has anything left to protect. This isn't just a story about a surgery gone wrong. It's about secrecy, neglect, and the devastating cost of putting image above reality. It's about what happens when a brand matters more than blood. And it's about a young man, a teenager, who deserved better than to have his health and his future tangled in a scandal that reaches from hospital walls all the way to the FBI. And as the world waits for answers, one truth remains undeniable: silence won't save them this time.